Hey everyone, we're at the Phanteks suite now at CES 2019. Phanteks has a lot of stuff. You've seen some of it. You've requested coverage of the P600s, which I'm standing next to right now. There's also a new Luxe case, and then there's some new metallic gear cases that we'll be talking about as well in the back half of this video. But we're going to start with the P600s because it's been the most heavily requested in the comment section of our other case video that went up earlier today. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Gigabyte Z390 Aorus Master motherboard, which comes equipped with one of the more powerful Z390 VRMs for heavier overclocks on the new 9th gen Intel CPUs. The Aorus Master is also one of the few motherboards with a real heatsink this generation, featuring a mix of high surface area fins and looks-oriented cover blocks. Oh, and it's also got updated RGB illumination. Learn more at the link below. The P600s, first of all, first thing you need to know is if you're familiar with the Evolv X and the Evolv X's tooling, you're already familiar with this case. So that sets your foundation. You already know everything about the internals of the chassis. And if you saw our Evolv X review, you can just pay attention to the build section where we talk about the internals. Same idea applies here. Differences are primarily external, and then price is a major difference as well. So these will be priced at $140 or $150 depending on the SKU that you buy. There are 3 different colors available. There's by Phanteks naming scheme, if I remember them correctly. There's anthracite, which is gray. There's a satin black, which actually has a pretty nice finish on it. And then the white next to me, which I think is called Glacier White. So 3 SKUs there. There's a separate SKU with a closed off side panel. So it's a steel side panel rather than tempered glass. And that also has some sound damping foam on the additional steel panel. We'll have a shot of pulling this off as well, but there's sound damping foam here and on the top, and then the material you see behind it is just a nylon, which is also on the Luxe2 we'll be looking at later on. So that nylon material, we haven't trust but verify, they say. So our understanding presently is that the airflow is it's a bit more forgiving on airflow because it's more porous of a material. So we'll try and verify that in the wind tunnel at some point if we ever get a chance to do that, because it makes sense from a material standpoint. So paneling opens up just like that with a pull tab. You can stick that in there if you want to conceal it. On the main case side, everything's the same internally. Power supply shroud's the same. You could still buy the additional mini ITX bracket if you would like to install a mini ITX system inside of it, which is how this is configured with functionally an integrated NAS, and that particular setup makes some sense because there is plenty of storage options. So there's included 4 3.5-inch drive mounts, and then the rest you buy separately, as we discussed in the Evolv X review. For the fan spec for the P600s, it's 3 1,000 RPM 140mm fans. I think that covers most of this case. It's primarily about visual. So what you see is what you get. I'm not gonna tell you if you like it or not, but you can let us know in the comment section what you think of this. Pricing is the biggest change here. So a lot of you liked the Evolv X. The Evolv X is definitely a high-end case, $200 or so when it came out. Quite a bit more for the expansion options. So if you wanted an Evolv X, but for about $50 cheaper, then I guess this would be your option for the chassis side of it. Quick note before we move on to the Luxe2 and the budget class cases, there are waterblocks now as well for 2080 Ti cards. So there's a Strix card block, and then there's also one for the Xtreme. And then interestingly, both of those allow support compatibility with the stock backplate for the Strix and for the Xtreme. So we'll show some B-roll of it. Not going to focus on that today. Let's move on to the Luxe2 case. So the Luxe2 is on the higher end of the price spectrum, looking at about $190 for this one, Q2 for the Target. For the materials, the front and the top panel are 2mm aluminum, and the sides are pretty good fake because they fit in terms of the color and the matte of the material, because from a couple feet away, it tricked me. It looked aluminum, but it is plastic sides and then an aluminum top and front. The fans, so let's go through the specs, the hard data first. Fans will be 2 front fans black, included 1300 RPM 140mm for those. And then there will also be a rear fan, 140mm for that as well. But the configuration here, I think it's 4 120s in the front and 4 120s in the side mount. This side mounting thing's gotten popular in the last couple of months. We've seen a couple of thermal take cases. The well-known Lian Li 011 Dynamic did this as well. So side intake in most of our testing works pretty damn well, as long as there's something on the other side like a glass panel to just block it all and let it go where it wants. The only downside of a side intake is when you do side intake without any front intake as well, to sort of make sure the air doesn't escape out the front, something that we saw in one of the Phoenix cases we reviewed. So this has got both options if you want front or side. It does support 4 120s, again, comes stock with 140s. On the rear side, just kind of interesting, there's a window for the SSDs, So 3 SSD bracket or mounts on the rear side with a window looking into them. They've got RGB LED ones in here, but the popularity of those seems to be a bit mixed. So you can let us know what you think of the RGB SSDs. For the mesh, again, we see a return of the nylon material. We'll look into this more later because it's an interesting topic and something that Phanteks does very uniquely. And we've got shots of the interior as well. But $190 Target, Q2 for Target release date. And the name is the Luxe2. So hopefully we have more information on that later. You can check links in the description below. The last one to look at is going to be the metallic gear cases for the more budget-oriented Phanteks lineup. It's a sort of sub-brand or sister brand of Phanteks that was announced, I believe, at Computex of last year. Finally, for the metallic gear cases, so from camera left towards me, the pricing $50, $60, $70 minus 1 penny. It's just easier to say it that way. So that's the pricing for the cases. There's the Neo Silent, Neo Air, and Neo G. The positioning of them is pretty straightforward. Silent is going to have some of the sound dampening materials. It comes with 1 fan stock, which aids a bit in the price. So 1 fan probably pre-installed in the rear for stock. The Neo Air is, well, we've got 2 options here. So there's a digital RGB option for the Neo G, and then RGB for the Neo Air. In terms of the fan spec, the Air comes with 2 120mm RGB fans. It will be available in white and black for the case. And then the Neo G next to me here, as opposed to the Air, is a digital RGB system, 2 120mm fans, $70 for the price target on that one. And tooling is about 50-50 new versus reused parts. So some of the tooling you might be familiar with. But these are the more budget-oriented cases. This is kind of similar to, if you're wondering why metallic gear, kind of similar to some of the other brands we've seen in the past, like Kingston with HyperX is a good example, where Kingston very much wanted Kingston to be associated with server enterprise. That was their business. That's what they've always done. They wanted HyperX for gaming. Metallic gear is kind of like the budget brand or the more affordable brand, gamer-targeted cases for Phanteks, like you have Landcool previously with Lian Li, where Lian Li didn't want their all-aluminum $8 million cases associated with $100 gaming cases, so they spun off Landcool. So metallic gear, if you're wondering, it's Phanteks. It's just different branding, but that's what they have here for these. Availability for most of this stuff we'll include in the article linked in the description below as well. And I think that covers it for the Phanteks suite. So thank you for watching. You can subscribe for more. As always, go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly. Thank you. And what do we have next? I guess we have AMD next. So you'll definitely want to check back for AMD because they have some major announcements coming up for the show. I'll see you all next time.